Strap in and be prepared.
Maybe I'll learn from your failures.
That is what you could do.
Yeah.
Interesting guests.
Kelly Graves, Mike Parker, Josh Pate, George Reiser, Ryan Lee, Yogi Roth, who said that Justin and I are smart.
Sharp opinions.
I think Dan Lanning sitting in his office going, you know what, fine, give us the toughest road to win the national championship. That's what it should be.
Oregon State in their baseball program is still operating from a position of strength, even if they're independent. But here they are in the College World Series.
And some smiles.
It's iconic.
We're not keeping score, but maybe we're keeping score.
The fastest 60 minutes in sports is on the air. It's Danny Havel.
When I wake up every morning, I say to myself, what can I do to make Baby J's life better today?
Justin Grossweiner.
Have I ever told you, Danny, that growing up I really loved ducks?
Danny and Justin starts now on Fox Sports Eugene and Newport.
Hello, neighbors, and welcome high atop the Delta Triad in the Crystal Palace, the Fox Sports Eugene and Newport studios, the Bigfoot Beverages studios. Welcome, friends, to the fastest 60 minutes in sports. This is the Danny and Justin radio program. You can follow us on Twitter and Blue Sky, Danny and Justin. Also pod us wherever you pod. You either type in Danny and Justin, spell out the and, or just type in the fastest 60 minutes in sports talk, and you'll find us there. Wherever your platform is, whether it's Apple, iHeart, Odyssey, Amazon, they have podcasts. It says Play More Pods. Did I say Spotify? I think I did say Spotify. All the other ones as well. Podverse is out there. Listen Notes. You know where you pod. And thanks for lending us your ears. If you don't listen to it live, you can pod it whenever you want. So you can do it at your convenience. Pretty good show today, we think, to wind up the week. Just me today again. Baby J is still up in Alaska. He's taking part in a wedding tomorrow up there in Fairbanks. He'll be back on Monday. But today on the program, we'll do our Oregon State and Oregon camp rundowns for football. We'll hear from Oregon defensive back coach Chris Hampton about the competition and the growth in that defensive backfield for the Ducks this year. And then some. We did the offensive line the other day for Oregon State, so we'll move over to the defensive side of the football with Elisa Tuaaki, who is the coordinator on the D-line, the coach of the D-line. Also Thomas Collins, a defensive lineman coming back this year. And Tuveta Pomee, also coming back, who had a body transformation over the summertime. And then beyond that, if that's not enough for you, then here we're going to start previewing some of the opponents for Oregon and Oregon State for the upcoming football season. And we're going to start with arguably the biggest game on the Oregon schedule, although the Ducks say it will be Montana State on August 30th. But we'll go a little bit deeper and go to September 29th, and we'll bring in Audrey Snyder. Audrey's a good friend of the program. She used to work for The Athletic, but now she has her own Substack, which is called Inside the Lions. She does everything Penn State football. And so we'll talk to Audrey Snyder right around 2:20 on the program today. Marcus Mariota wants to fill Autzen Stadium. We'll talk about that. And a nice honor this weekend for Ichiro. Ichiro Suzuki, of course, Hall of Famer now for the Seattle Mariners. And also a very nice weekend up in Seattle this weekend for Ichiro. We'll tell you about that coming up, all on the program today here, the Danny and Justin radio program. I'm Danny, by the way, right over there. By the way, she's not going to say anything because, well, I don't know. She doesn't want to put her microphone on, but Abby's doing all the producing on the program yet again today. We had a really nice time at Laurelwood, by the way. If you missed the program, you can either go back and, again, as I said, pod it, but we also have it on the YouTube channel. And it was very nice right after the program, and it always makes me feel good. And if you see me out in public, out in the wild, come up and say hi. And I had a couple of fans, I guess, or a couple of people who listened to the program. It was kind of embarrassing, but humbling at the same time. Come up and say thanks. And so, sometimes you sit here in this room with a microphone and only two other people sitting in the room, and you kind of wonder if you're making an impact on people in a positive way. And I know I could probably use this microphone to complain about this, that, or the other thing, or how our country's, going sideways and such, but I don't feel that this is the forum for that. I feel that this hour, if I get an hour on the radio, or if somebody wants to give me 2 or 3, I want to use it for positivity. I want to use it to inform, educate, and laugh. I mean, take yourself so seriously. I mean, we are not doing heart surgery here. We're talking about sports and about life. So if you enjoy it, please pull me aside if you see me out in public and either say thanks or say, hey, could you do this? We would enjoy hearing this. I love those suggestions. Now, when we get into the fall, obviously, when football season, we're uncorking that. We're going to have a lot of fun with big bets. We're going to do some more fun fan interaction things. But I do appreciate when people come up and either say thank you or say, hey, listen to the show, but could you do ... So feel free. It was a nice interaction yesterday. And I played pretty well on the golf course yesterday. Les and Carlo and Susan Heisey are a good friend from Susan Heisey Real Estate. Oh, it's actually Bailey and Heisey, but Susan Heisey is the principal broker and owner. And she was working hard. She was swinging the golf club, but she was also working yesterday while we were golfing. And, yeah, played pretty well yesterday. So I was pretty happy with myself. Yeah. So there you go. That's a little self-indulgence that you have to, unfortunately, bear through once in a while here on the radio program. Danny here, Justin up there, Abby over there, and you're out there. So thanks for tuning in. By the way, Susan Heisey at Bailey and Heisey Real Estate, your realtor for Greater Eugene, Oregon for over 20 years. Susan takes the approach of not just being an advisor, but being a partner with you when you're either buying or selling a home. Specializing in South Eugene, yes. And she loves the Laurelwood Golf Course, yes. But she doesn't carry a whole lot of inventory. So what that means for you if you're looking to buy or sell, and she'll represent you if you're buying, not just selling, is personalized attention and care and being able to be available on the phone or in person whenever you need her. And believe me, I witnessed that yesterday as well. It doesn't matter if she's, quote-unquote, taking a little time off for herself. If you need her, she's there for you. So give her a call at 541-520-2246, 520-2246. Easier, though, you can go see her in Amazon Corner, which is down there by Provision South. You know where that is in South Eugene. Or email her, Susan at Heisey Homes, Heisey Homes, Heisey Homes, Bailey and Heisey Real Estate. So let's do some news and notes. We got some cool stories for you. I dug a little bit. By the way, we have our first winner for Brawl on the Bay at Coquel Casino and Resort in Coos Bay. I'll reveal that in a moment. They know who they are, but you don't know who they are yet. We got a couple more of those to give away as well before the big MMA event on Saturday, August the 21st. I don't know what I was doing there. You know what happened? I got something stuck in my mouth. Saturday, August 23rd. 21st. I just made up a new date. 7 p.m. on the North Dock. Live MMA action on the dock at Brawl in the Bay. I'll tell you who that winner is in just a moment. Some bad news for the Los Angeles Chargers. Pro Bowl left tackle Rashawn Slater is going to miss the 2025 season with a ruptured patella tendon. Suffered in practice yesterday. Slater's undergoing surgery, placed on IR. He left practice on a medical cart. Just 11 days ago, Slater signed a 4-year, $113 million contract extension, including $92 million guaranteed, making him the highest paid offensive lineman by average pay in NFL history, and now he sits out for the year. And that does not bode well for Justin Herbert as he tries desperately to get some exhilaration in that offense. And by the way, you can hear all of the Chargers games right here on Core 102.9 here in Eugene, 92.7 in Newport. Charger football. In fact, Sunday got their second preseason game coming up right here on the old radio program. Fans at the St. Jude Championship this weekend can be just like Scotty Scheffler. Netflix is presenting Scotty's Chicken Shack at the event. Of course, this is a nod to the 4-time major winner's role in Happy Gilmore 2. Scheffler, along with several other pro golfers, made some cameos, including him punching a Team Maxi golfer that he's facing, ending up in handcuffs. That was a tongue-in-cheek reference to, of course, what happened to him outside Valhalla at the PGA Championship site. The joke continued in a holding cell when the officer approaches Scheffler and says, "It's been 3 days. You sure you don't want to make a call to get out?" And he says, "Depends. What's for dinner?" Scheffler asks. Officer says, "Chicken fingers." Scheffler said, "Nah, I'll stick around another night." So good he can make fun of himself. The Danny Justin radio program here for a Friday. Thanks for tuning in wherever and however. Seattle Seahawks running back George Holani nearly backed into a photographer during Thursday's preseason game, but not just any photographer. It was Marshawn Lynch manning the sideline, both camera and official NFL vest. And he did what he had to do to protect his camera. Holani fell toward him. The 39-year-old stuck out his elbow to protect the piece of equipment, likely to be quite expensive. It was a blink-and-miss-it cameo. Both men came away just fine. Staying in the NFL, Micah Parsons is one of the best defensive players in the league, and a man who said he wants out of the Dallas Cowboys organization. But so far, what they're saying, no team has reportedly shown any interest in the disgruntled defensive linebacker. Team owner Cherry Jones says he has no intentions of granting Parsons' request to be traded. Teams are apparently taking him at his word. He's also not admitted to not having any confidence Parsons will be suiting up for Week 1. Parsons entering the fifth-year option of his rookie contract, which will pay him $24 million a year. He could hit the free agency market. All right, we'll finish up news and notes with this one. I love this one. It's pocket food. Milwaukee Brewers are bringing Pat Murphy's strange eating habits to the fans. Murphy went viral in a recent interview for pulling a pancake out of his uniform pocket and taking a bite. He shared the flapjack with the reporter as he detailed different ways he shoves food into his pockets to snack on in the dugout. Abby likes that. The moment has spawned quite the movement in Milwaukee. The ball club announced Friday that Murph's pocket pancakes will be sold at American Family Field during Sunday games for the rest of the season, starting with this weekend series against the Mets. Brewers, by the way, who haven't lost since Murphy whipped the pancake out of his pocket last week, have built the best record in the major leagues. He says he'll put anything in his pocket that makes sense. He's got waffles in there, pancakes, pizza. And so he was asked by a reporter, how do you put a hot piece of pizza in a pocket without staining the uniform? And he says, hey, if it's cold pizza, you fold it up like a sandwich. You eat it during the game. He says he's got a hoodie that's full of crumbs in the pockets. By the way, the Brewers selling the Ball 4 Pocket Pack, which featuring 4 pocket pancakes, choice of maple syrup or strawberry compote dipping sauce for $4.99. The double chicken and pancakes pocket pack costs $7.99. 2 pancakes stuffed with a chicken tender each, topped with chopped bacon and a maple syrup drizzle. It actually sounds kind of good. There's your news and notes. The Danny and Justin radio program for a Friday. Pocket pancakes. What will they think up next? All right, Oregon camp is in full swing. Chris Hampton, the coach of the safeties, co-defensive coordinator, came to Eugene after 2 seasons as the D coordinator at Tulane, and Hampton 4 seasons as the defensive back coach for the Green Wave before leaving to coach quarterbacks at Duke in 2020. Then he returned to Tulane to take over as the D coordinator. And he talks about, as we heard from a couple of the DBs yesterday, he talks about how the competition in the room and on the practice field, both offense and defense, is at a heightened level this year for the Ducks. Now, the Danny and Justin radio program, that's what happens when you have technical issues. Tell you what, we're going to step aside. Actually, we can't step aside. We're just going to keep it right here. Chris Hampton basically talked about the competition and the growth for the defensive backfield for Oregon, and it seems to be one of those question marks that Oregon's going to have during the season is the settling down of that defensive backfield, because there's a lot of pieces that have to be replaced. And so Chris Hampton's job now is to try and build that defensive backfield into something that's going to be that good that they were last year and getting better into 2025. There's going to be a lot of tests, even though the schedule for Oregon, people would say maybe it's going to be a little light. Penn State's the big one on the list, but Montana State's going to come in full of bear. And then Northwestern, although a team that has been struggling over the last couple of years, they are a sneaky good team, especially early in the season. So there's a lot of I would say, mines that Oregon's going to have to get past and get through in the early part of the year. We're going to try Chris Hampton again. You can't push them both at the same time. What we'll do is we'll take our break now, and when we come back, we'll bring up Audrey Snyder. Audrey Snyder from Penn State, inside the Lions. We'll talk about Nittany Lion football against the Ducks coming up.
Ladies and gentlemen,
The biggest name. 1050 AM, 102.9 FM, and FoxSportsEugene.com. You're listening to Danny and Justin on Fox Sports Eugene.
I love the show.
Call the Oregon Man Clinic's hotline at 541-343-KORE.
The August Advantage membership discount still going on at our good friends at the Back Nine Eugene on Coburg Road. 24/7 access, priority booking for tee times. You can go anytime you want. 4 big bays simulators and full swing technology, but not just golf, which gives you great input if you're a golfer that's just learning, if you are someone who wants to get better at your game. Great instant feedback on your swing and ball speed and spin and all those things. But right now, you can get 10% off your membership for life if you go to the Back Nine website, Back Nine Eugene, and enter in the code August10 when you check out. So once this ends in August, it's not going to come back again. So take advantage of it now. 10% off your membership for life at the Back Nine Eugene, the August Advantage membership discount. August 10 is your code. You do it at checkout. All right, let's head on over to the Oregon Man Clinic's hotline at 541-343-5673. And welcome back, our dear friend. She was the 2022 NSMA Pennsylvania Sports Writer of the Year, and she's got her own gig going right now with Inside the Lions on Substack. It is our expert, all things Penn State. It's Audrey Snyder joining us. Audrey, welcome back to the program.
Happy to be here, guys. Happy Friday. Happy preseason, right?
Yeah, you know, it's been a long, cold winter, and especially probably there in State College because of the expectations and the ramp-up and the exuberance based off of last year. So first, let's talk about the postscript of last season first for James Franklin's squad. And I wouldn't say exceeding expectations. There's always a high level of expectation and anticipation in Beaver Stadium. But let's talk about how it ended up and how you think James Franklin used that as a springboard to get into this year.
Absolutely. I mean, and James Franklin even hit on it this past week when Penn State had their local media day last Saturday. He said, listen, a lot of teams around the country would be elated to, come up short in the semifinal. I mean, realistically, this team was a drive away from playing for a national championship. But he said that's not the case here, and a lot of fans are pissed. I mean, and he's right. I mean, that's the kind of unfair expectation when you're the head coach at Penn State, right? I mean, this is a program that I'm 35 years old. I'm born and raised in Pennsylvania. I've never seen Penn State win a national championship, right? There's a whole generation of fans that are waiting on that, and they're getting restless. And, Penn State also realizes this is their best chance to get it done. I mean, the fact that they were able to return so many of these marquee players from last year's roster. You look at Drew Aller, the running backs, Nick Singleton and Katron Allen, defensive end Denai Dennis Sutton. Then you go out and hire Jim Knowles away from Ohio State as the defensive coordinator, and it's like you've got all chips pushed toward the center. This is it. Fans are certainly excited around here. I mean, I've been covering these guys. This is my 16th season covering Penn State football, and you can feel the excitement. I mean, I live here in State College. I'm 10 minutes from Beaver Stadium, and whenever you have a conversation with seemingly just about anyone, it's, okay, well, yeah, but how does the team look? And it doesn't matter if it's January or if it's August. This team is always on so many people's minds around here.
So, Audrey, let's start on the defense side of the football. I do want to get to the offense because there's going to be a lot of buzz around Drew Aller's return and that running back tandem that's coming back. But you've got to replace Abdul Carter on the line, Kobe King, who was calling the plays at linebacker, and then the secondary, which is returning a lot of kids. But Jim Knowles is going to have to put his thumbprint on this defense. So let's start there, and let's start in the defensive backfield. Is that necessarily the biggest question mark for this defense?
The thing that's interesting to me is that this is going to be a base 4-2-5 defense, which, again, really goes to Penn State's strengths because I just don't think they have it at linebacker right now. I mean, I think they have some limitations there. Tony Rojas will certainly be one of those linebackers. He's an athletic freak, but you kind of try to figure out who they're going to pair with him, and that's where you get some question marks. But to me, they have depth in this secondary. I mean, they are content knowing that they have 6 cornerbacks that they can trot out there on Saturdays and feel pretty good about. So that's like pretty crazy when you put it that way. The other thing that would kind of stump me a little bit at this point in the preseason is who is that starting safety opposite Zakee Wheatley? Wheatley, I think, is going to be a star here, but who do you put next to him? So you have some questions there. But, you know, when you have Denai Dennis Sutton at defensive end, you have Zane Durant at defensive tackle, both of these guys are going to be playing on Sundays. They're going to be high draft picks, but it's about filling in those spots around them. And Jim Knowles said this preseason, hey, it's on him to try and get these guys up to speed as quickly as possible, but also realizing, you know, you can only put so much on their plate. And that's where Penn State gets the benefit of having that favorable non-conference schedule that they can probably sleepwalk up until they get to the Ducks in September.
Terry Smith, the position coach, says it's probably one of the best rooms he's had in 12 years back there, and you kind of talked about the depth, but it's also about proving it on the field. And so that back end, and you probably said it right, is probably not going to be tested very much in those first few games. So is it going to be by the aggregate that you're going to see? Are we going to see more than maybe 5 or 6 out there at, rotating through? Maybe it goes 7 or 8?
Yeah, I mean, I think especially in non-conference play, I mean, I think you're going to see Penn State try a lot of different combinations on that defense. And, you know, James Franklin always says, well, yeah, hey, we don't get the benefit of a preseason like the NFL. Well, this year you pretty much do because, you know, when you get Villanova coming in here the third week of the season, it's like, all right, like, come on, you know. But that's, I mean, this is about figuring out what the strengths are on this defense. And it's fascinating when you watch Jim Knowles during a practice because at least when we're there, and I know it's not the same once the cameras leave, but he's very calm and walks around the field and isn't laying into anyone, is just kind of overseeing, being like the CEO of the defense. But talking with Terry Smith, talking with Penn State's players, they're like, oh, no, he's certainly fiery. Like, we've seen it, we've heard it. But absolutely, when you talk about defensive backs, you know, that's also right in Jim Knowles' wheelhouse. So, yeah, I think Penn State is going to be situated well in the secondary, but no doubt there's still some question marks, too.
You can follow Audrey Snyder on Twitter, AudSnyder4. That's AUDSNYDER, the number 4. And you want to know everything about Penn State, that's the person to follow online. And Audrey Snyder hosts and runs Inside the Lions, everything Penn State. And, of course, we're talking about football, and we are joined here on a Friday by Audrey Snyder. So, Audrey, let's move over to the offensive side of the football. Tyler Warren was the big piece missing now from the tight end position, but, boy, what a wealth of riches that come back for James Franklin's offense. And it starts obviously with Drew Aller under center, and then the announcement that came shortly after the season ended at the Orange Bowl that Nick Singleton and Katron Allen both were coming back. I mean, no doubt it's probably not if the best, one of the best running back rooms in the country.
Yeah, I mean, it's loaded, and James Franklin was even really candid when he said, you know, this summer, he was like, we thought we'd get one of those running backs back, maybe, but we did not think we'd get 2. And, you know, it's really interesting that the main surprise in that room was that position coach, Jaywan Sider, leaves to go to Notre Dame. So Penn State brings in running backs coach Stan Drayton, and if you're Stan Drayton, you've got to be like, oh, my gosh, like, look what I inherit. I mean, the only question this preseason is like, okay, who's running back 3? And they've got 3 really talented guys competing at that spot, too. So, yeah, I mean, the fact that you've got these running backs, no doubt it's going to help lessen the load because, again, the big question around here is that receiving core, and Tyler Warren at tight end last year was able to make up for so many of those deficiencies. So, you know, do we see running backs catching more passes? I still like what Penn State has at tight end. I mean, I still think there's a lot of talent there, even though they're guys that are more under the radar up to this point. I really don't think, there's no other guy like Tyler Warren in the country. I get that. But there's still other talented guys there that I think are going to help. And then you bring in Trevor Pena, the wide receiver from Syracuse. You go out, you get Devontae Ross from Troy as well, and Kyron Hudson from USC. So they've revamped that receiving core to try and surround Drew Aller with some more pieces to that offense.
Liam Clifford also could be another one that steps up a little bit, even though he only had, I guess, 3 receptions last season. So is the biggest question going to be that receiver area for Marcus Hagen's squad?
I think so, yeah. I mean, and it's also like until you see it, you can't really believe it because it's been the storyline around here the last 2 years. I mean, the fact that they overhauled this room again this year after trying to do so last year, I mean, it's still, I think we could go on and write and talk about college football for a long time. The fact that no wide receiver caught a pass in that playoff semifinal game against Notre Dame, I mean, that is just incredible, and that really was like the tipping point where it's like, okay, you have to go out and make drastic changes to that room. And they did so with the portal. Now you're going to need some of these other younger guys to step up too. But again, you've got at least the first 3 weeks of the season to try and figure some of that out before Oregon comes in here, because then at that point it is all hands on deck.
Audrey Snyder joins us, the Danny and Justin radio program here for a Friday. Just Danny today, as Justin's up in Alaska helping on one of his good friends get married off this weekend. So we'll welcome him back to the program on Monday. So, Audrey, let's talk about more holistically James Franklin. And the knock has been the I guess, tongue-in-cheek nickname on James Franklin is Big Game James, where it doesn't seem like he can finally push through. And you kind of alluded to it, that as a longtime Penn State follower, you have never seen a national championship in your lifetime. So is this feel like, and obviously I'm prefacing this with a whole lot of ramp up to it, because nobody's played it down yet against anybody else. But on paper and with what they've got coming back, the experience, the holes that they filled, doesn't it feel like this team finally for Penn State is the one that's primed to make that final push to the mountaintop?
Absolutely. I mean, I think when you look at this roster top to bottom, you have to say, if not now, when? Like, I think that is you're looking at a big reset after this season. And this is a lot of it you could point to last year and say, okay, yeah, they're gearing up for last year because of Abdul Carter. He's in that same recruiting class with Drew Aller and Nick Singleton and Denai Dennis Sutton. So you could point to that. But the fact that they were able to bring so many of those guys back from last year's roster, to me, that's like, okay, this is it. And the fact that, Andy Kotelnicki, the offensive coordinator, he's not going to be here forever. This is year 2 for him. This is a guy who's going to get some head coaching opportunities again here soon. So I think absolutely. I mean, you've got to put yourself in your best, possible scenario, best situation to gear up for a playoff run. And then once you get in, like, I think this is the other piece that I know fans probably don't want to hear this, but like, you got to be peaking at the right time, and you need some luck too. Yeah. And that's where, when Penn State fans look back on last year, it's like you had the most favorable path in the playoffs. And then you get to Notre Dame and you jump out, you have a lead, you're playing well, and then all of a sudden it just totally falls apart in the second half. And that goes back to the big game mantra, and that's the thing that Penn State has to shake this year. I mean, the fact that they've beaten Ohio State once during James Franklin's tenure, no doubt that is a big blemish. Now, the caveat there, of course, is that Ohio State's been tremendous, and not many people have beaten them in that time frame. But they go out to Columbus this year, Halloween weekend. That is going to be a massive game. And, of course, now with the expanded Big Ten, you get Oregon coming in here, and it's like, okay, those are your 2 biggest games to figure out, are you an elite team or not?
Well, September 27th is circled on a lot of college football calendars, and especially out here in Eugene. And you don't need to talk about that disappointment to the Oregon fan base after a 13-0 regular season and then the egg that was laid in the Rose Bowl against a very good Ohio State team. We're not going to take anything away from the Buckeyes. They definitely showed why they were primed to go to a national championship run. But it still begs the question, is that it is an incredibly top-heavy, it seems yet again, Big Ten coming into the season with Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon. I think Illinois could be sneaky good. I think Michigan's going to be a little bit better. And then I don't know where the rest of the conference is going to be. So from your perspective, where does the Big Ten overall and holistically fit in the national championship discussion picture?
Oh, they're absolutely right there in it. I mean, I think you can make that case that Ohio State, could and should be in the national title game. I think you can make the case for Penn State, the same scenario. I think you can make the case for Oregon. One of the more interesting teams to me, again, is Indiana, because everybody's talking about, who's this year's Indiana? Well,
Indiana?
What's wrong with the Hoosiers? Why not, right? I think there's some of that. I think you look at it and say, okay, well, Nebraska, right? Like, what's the, not national title conversation, but what's the next step for the Huskers, and are they ever finally going to put it together? I think, you look at it, it's the SEC, it's the Big Ten, and no doubt the Big Ten has proven time and time again it belongs. They're going to play a really interesting brand of football as you continue to mesh, some of these organs with the likes of the smash mouth Big Ten programs and stuff. It's going to continue to be really exciting to watch. But I think the Big Ten is well positioned to make some noise again. I think you get at least 3 Big Ten teams into the playoff. And then once you're in, then you just see what happens, right? You hope that the seeding maybe gives the Big Ten teams some favorable draws, that maybe they're not beating up on each other again with an Ohio State-Oregon situation like last year. No doubt this is a tremendous conference, and I think we're all gonna probably be spoiled this fall watching it.
Inside the Lions is what Audrey Snyder lives through for the Penn State coverage on Substack, and you can follow her on Twitter at Snyder4. She joins us here on the Danny and Justin radio program. A couple more questions for you, Audrey, and it kind of relates more to where college football is going. And there's been a lot of discussion for the postseason, reseeding after the first round, the 5-11 versus the 4 from each, the Big Ten and the SEC. Where do you land on everything going to a 16-team playoff and how it should look?
The 16 team, I think we're just watering down the product, right?
Okay.
I think you look at it now, and the pushback that I have, or the issue that I have, and it comes down to the Big Ten and the SEC, and it's scheduling. And it's the fact that the Big Ten has the 9-game conference schedule. SEC has 8. You look at it, Alabama always gets, that cupcake game late in the year as a gear-up opportunity, while the Big Ten's beating each other up another week. I think you've got to find a way to try and level that playing field before you even worry about the rest of it. And sure, a lot of it's TV revenue and, the intrigue and, okay, more games, more eyes, more money, more sponsorships, all of that stuff. But let's try to level it out between your 2 elite conferences in this sport. To me, that's the really weird thing. And then you say, okay, well, back to the whole conference championship game argument, right? Well, what's the benefit if you lose that game and you get beat up in that game? It's another game of wear and tear, and maybe it hurts your seeding. Or in the case of Penn State last year, it's like, okay, well, playing that game helped you because it showed that you could hang with Oregon, right? So, it's fascinating that there's so many caveats to this sport, but I don't think we need 16 teams. I think at some point you got to say enough's enough. But again, from a revenue perspective, I would not be stunned if this is what we're looking at in a few years away.
And I think you've touched on what I believe a lot of the fans who are knowledgeable about the game are not upset with, but need the level playing field, is how many conference games each conference will play. And honestly, I don't necessarily want to go down the route of getting away from a conference championship tilt. I like the excitement around a championship game, but that's still been on the table as well, is that we just get rid of the conference championship games and play 9 or 10 games in conferences because you have that many teams.
Yeah, and the thing last year too, and it's been really interesting talking to Penn State and some of their people in their sports science program, when you look at it, is the fact that the season went so long for them last year, with the Big Ten title game, with then playing the 3 playoff games. They are doing things differently this preseason, already scaling back, anticipating a long playoff run.
Really?
Right? You've got to be really mindful of limiting wear and tear. And so this is stuff that they're starting to do right now and saying, we've looked at all the data from last year and, okay, how were our guys at the end of the year? Were we healthy? Were we banged up? What can we do to try and stay as fresh as possible? And that's where, when you have that conference championship game, you're like, all right, okay, you're playing in that now. And then, and obviously last year for Penn State, nobody was expecting them to be in that situation heading into that final weekend of the regular season. So then, you have that game, and then it's like, okay, well, now you're hosting a playoff game the next week. and then you're going to the Fiesta Bowl after that, and then after that you're playing Notre Dame in the semifinal. I mean, it was also interesting in that their season ends, and these guys were back on campus within like a week and a half because the spring semester was starting.
Right.
I mean, it was really crazy the way that this whole thing shook out. But yeah, I mean, I think at some point you've got to put more guardrails on it, whether it's the conference championship game or whether it's, the number of conference games or scheduling. And at what point, do you say enough's enough and okay, you guys have to play some competitive opponents here or not, right? Just whatever you do, make it uniform.
Absolutely. I'm 100% in agreement with you. And notice that we did not talk about the Oregon-Penn State matchup in terms of who's going to put helmet on helmet, because we're going to save that for that week, because there's a lot of football between now and then, and I know both programs are not concentrating on anything else except that first week.
Oh, of course. It's all about week one. But, no, absolutely. I look forward to chatting with you guys again the week of the whiteout, and any Ducks listeners want to know where to go in State College, what to see and do if they're making the trip. Happy to share all of my insider tips on that as well, because I think that's the fun of this expanded conference, right? It's
Absolutely.
fan bases coming and experiencing things that they otherwise wouldn't.
Yeah, absolutely. And Audrey, we are going to lean into you on all of those things, and we appreciate you lending us time, especially, it's getting past dinner time there back where you're at. But we do appreciate all your insight and your coverage of Penn State football, and good luck with Inside the Lions. And I hope people go there to get all that information, because you are really invested in Penn State athletics, and you do a great job for us. So thanks.
Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, there she goes, the great Audrey Snyder. Again, follow her on Twitter, AudSnyder4, and Inside the Lions. That's a great little alliteration there on Substack. The great Audrey Snyder, who will be joining us again during our Whiteout Week between Penn State and Oregon coming up end of September. All right, we'll take one more quick break before we head out to the top of the hour. We're going to talk Marcus Mariota's foundation wants to fill Autzen Stadium. We're going to tell you how you can help his foundation do that, okay? And Ichiro gets quite an honor in Seattle this weekend as the Mariners honor their Hall of Famer. All when we come back on Danny and Justin radio program for Friday.
We are very excited to be broadcasting to you live.
1050 AM, 102.9 FM, and FoxSportsEugene.com. Broadcasting from the Bigfoot Beverages Studios. You're listening to Danny and Justin on Fox Sports Eugene.
Monday on the program, Justin returns from Alaska, so we'll get caught up with him on all of his adventures in Fairbanks. And we'll have the Duke, Ryan Harlan, covering Oregon State athletics on the program as our guest. Apologies for not having our audio from Coach Chris Hampton from the Oregon State side as well. We'll see if we can recover all of that and maybe replay that on Monday. So that one's on me. So want to remind you that we still have a couple of winners to draw for the Brawl on the Bay. Now, you still can't sign up for it, but we still have more winners to announce. August the 23rd, 7 p.m. at Coquel Casino Resort in Coos Bay. MMA action out there, right on the pier, right on the dock. They'll have the fight matchups coming up soon. We're sending some fans down there, put you up for the night, get you tickets. Jonas Mathis from the Eugene area won our first set of tickets for Brawl at the Bay, the MMA event. We'll have more to give away beginning next week. We'll draw some folks out there in Newport and another one, I think, from down in the Eugene area. So stay tuned for that. All right, so up in Seattle this weekend, they are hailing the great Ichiro Suzuki. The Hall of Fame weekend at T-Mobile Park is kicking off tonight at around 6:40, so a few hours from now. Gates will open up in just about a little hour and a half from now. And tonight, against the Rays, it's Ichiro Jersey Night. The first 20,000 fans get a replica 2004 jersey from the night Ichiro set the Major League Baseball single-season hit record with 262 hits. They're going to have the retirement ceremony tomorrow night against the Rays, which will be a 6:40 first pitch. The retirement ceremony starts at 6 p.m. They're going to retire number 51 for Ichiro. And then Ichiro Hall of Fame Plaque Day, the first 20,000 fans on Sunday for the 1:10 first pitch, will take home a replica of Ichiro's Cooperstown plaque. It's pretty cool. Now, what's also cool is that on the Seattle skyline, and I know there's going to be people taking pictures of this, so it's going to be awesome to see. They are going to display Ichiro's number 51. I don't know how they're going to do it. They're coordinating all the different buildings. They're going to stretch out Ichiro's number 51 across the Seattle skyline. So it starts tonight, so obviously when it gets darker, like after 8:30, the Russell's Investment Center will be displayed on the western side of the building facing the Seattle waterfront. So it's going to be across the skyline. It'll be pretty cool. So you're going to be able to see it from Puget Sound, the Seattle waterfront. Other buildings in downtown Seattle will be coloring all of their exterior lights blue for the weekend as well. So it's a nice honor for Ichiro, and number 51 being retired this weekend. So the Ducks are favored in their first game against Montana State. The line just came out. 25.5-point favorites are the Ducks against Montana State as they open up the season on August the 30th at Autzen Stadium at 1 p.m. against the Bobcats. But that's not what we want to talk about. Marcus Mariota's foundation is called Motivate, M-O-T-I-V 8 for the number 8. And what Marcus is doing is trying to get as many kids as possible to a football game. He does this every year. So the last time he did it was a matchup against Hawaii. So this year, September the 6th, Oklahoma State comes to town, and the Motivate Foundation is trying to get 1,500 kids for the game. So here's how you can get involved, okay? You can contribute by purchasing $35 tickets, and they'll be donated to a kid on the drive. And here's how you do it. GoDucks.com/motivate. So M-O-T-I-V and the number 8. GoDucks.com/motivate. It'll take you right there. Justin Herbert, Sabrina Ionescu are also offering their support. Kids Sports, the Boys and Girls Club of Emerald Valley are two of the 11 local organizations that are going to help distribute the tickets. And again, in 2023, over 1,500 kids got to a game. So let's get that many as well to the Oklahoma State game. It's great to have Marcus be kind of the spearhead of this, the tip of the spear, but it's all about you helping. And so that's how you can do it. So again, go to the GoDucks.com website and put /motivate, M-O-T-I-V, the number 8, and then buy a ticket, buy 2, buy 4 if you can. And those $35 tickets are going to be donated to kids. Let's get 1,500 kids to watch the Ducks take on Oklahoma State on September the 6th. Okay, so we did the Brawl tickets. We did all that stuff. We talked a lot about Penn State. And what's interesting and we'll have more of these, by the way. We're going to be talking to folks from Montana State and from Appalachian State because we're going to cover the Beavers as well. We're going to bring in all of the writers or play-by-play folks, people like Audrey Snyder who cover the opponents for both Oregon and Oregon State over the next couple of weeks. But it just made me pause for a second is that we are literally, as we sit here on the 8th of August, we are literally just a couple of weeks away from the first official games of the college football season, which, by the way, begins on the weekend of the 23rd, not the 30th. Now, a lot of the, what you want to say, FBS schools start on the 30th, but FCS schools will start kicking into play on the 23rd. So there'll be football to watch coming up. Fall practice, even though it's summer still, they're going to be wrapping up here pretty quick, and then it's going to be a work week, the week of the 25th for the Ducks and the Beavers. Beavers open up at home as well, night game. So there'll be a 1 o'clock game for Oregon against Montana State, and then a night game, 7:30 for the Beavs against Cal up at Research Stadium to open up the weekend in the state of Oregon for the two bigger schools. I think Portland State's got a road game that first weekend up in the Portland area. I think they're on the road. But the 30th is going to be the big day for the state of Oregon in college football. But it's, again, I'll just wind it back to both schools who are going through their practices are not talking about, like what we just did, the Penn State opponent at this point. Laser focused on the first week of the season. And Justin and I will start handicapping what we think, and kind of peel it back. And I think we've already discussed a little bit the over-under for Oregon State. And we kind of peeled it away a little bit for Oregon. And I'd be interested to hear next week, and we'll open up the phones next week, so what you believe, because it's going to get closer. There's so many unknowns when you start a season. And it's the anticipation that builds up, which I think the fans enjoy the most. I know I do. Because it's like, okay, all these chess pieces, even with your opponent, who left, who's moved a position, who unfortunately was injured, and who's going to step up, which freshmen are going to start. All those questions will start to be answered and revealed when you get into week 2 and week 3, and then you're right in the middle of conference season, it seems like. And it flies by. Didn't it seem like it flew by last year? I mean, obviously for Oregon, another historic season in the win column with 13 wins in the regular season, including the championship game of the Big Ten and the inaugural season in the Big Ten. I mean, you could not have scripted it better. The huge national eyeballs that were on Oregon and Ohio State at Autzen Stadium under the lights, and that thrilling 1-point win over the Buckeyes. And then to have it come, I don't want to say crashing down, but then to have the disappointment of what happened in the Rose Bowl when Oregon just got smacked in the teeth by the Buckeyes. But then the opportunity to turn that around this year. And I think Oregon fans, they probably wanted another shot at Ohio State. I mean, Ohio State's been kind of the nemesis of the Oregon program in recent history. I mean, think back to a national championship game where the gentleman who I just mentioned, Marcus Mariota, was leading the Ducks in Texas, and the disappointment that was felt there. That was the last time before that Ohio State had won a national championship. So a lot on everyone's minds in Eugene, in Columbus, in State College, in Bloomington. And I didn't mean to diss Indiana when I was talking about the teams that I think are going to rise to the top in the Big Ten. I wasn't dissing anybody. I mean, I think Fernando Mendoza is going to be interesting at Indiana at quarterback. I think it's going to be a fascinating story. I just don't know, with a tougher schedule, how Indiana's going to improve upon last year. But we'll see. All those things will flesh out in the wash after we get the season started.
Oh, a joke!
I got fired from the bank today. A woman asked me to check her balance, so I pushed her.
Dad jokes!
All right, a little Star Wars dad joke for you. How about this? What do you call Chewbacca with chocolate in his hair? Well, you call him a chocolate chip Wookiee. That was pretty good. Chocolate chip Wookiee. You can use that one, friends. You absolutely can use that one this weekend. Well, thanks for tuning in again. Duke Ryan Harlan will be on the program on Monday as we welcome back Baby J to the program. And again, our thanks to Audrey Snyder from Inside the Lions, a great dive into Penn State football. And that's going to be coming up, of course, late in September. We've got a lot of time before that time right here, as the Ducks and the Nittany Lions will face off in probably one of the best games of the early part of the season in college football. All right, Monday back on the program. Hope you all have a great weekend. For Abby, God bless, be well, put a smile on your face, someone else, so do you. Good night, Abigail.